And welcome back to the Hot Lap. We are talking Johnny Herbert hits back at Max Verstappen's dad, aka Jos Verstappen, for questioning, how dare he, but for questioning Johnny Herbert's integrity. Let's get into it. So Jos Verstappen has questioned Johnny Herbert's integrity with his comments about Max Verstappen when he was the steward at the Mexican Grand Prix. Johnny Herbert was also the steward at the Brazilian Grand Prix. He said, if I don't agree, I'll say it's not just Max. I'll criticise anyone I feel it's warranted. That's what he said. And to be honest, I can't disagree with him. I think Johnny Herbert does have integrity. He will criticise anyone. He's not afraid to do it. Even him and Alonso have come to blows in the past. Is there an element of British bias? Possibly, probably. But as I explained in our other videos, yes, there is a lot of bias in Formula One. So Herbert hits back, though, at Jos Verstappen. Jos Verstappen's over the F1 steward's integrity claims. So Johnny Herbert, he's insisted he's entitled to his opinions on the reigning Formula One champion, Max Verstappen, as a response to criticism from his father, Jos. The two former F1 drivers are at loggerheads after Johnny Herbert remarked that the time penalties dished out to the Red Bull driver during the Mexican Grand Prix would not stop him from pushing Lando Norris off the track in the future. Now, there's a precedent for that, because Max Verstappen has had penalties before for doing things similar, and he's carried on with his driving style. So I think Johnny was absolutely okay to say that in relation to the freedom, in freedom of speech, etc. However, and here's where the but comes in. The waters are a bit muddy when Johnny Herbert is a steward. So should he have said that when he knows he's going to be a steward again at the Brazilian Grand Prix? Probably, I don't think so. But should he have said that when he knows he's not going to be a steward now for the rest of the year? I don't really have much of an issue with that then. But Jos was livid that Herbert, who was acting as an FIA race steward at the Mexican Grand Prix, as we stated, was airing his views in public, having administered his penalties, insisting that a steward shouldn't talk to the press at all and just deliver work all the time. Okay, so the bitterness, though, continued into the Brazilian Grand Prix when Max Verstappen, who was heavily criticised by Sky's Damon Hill for his manoeuvres on Norris, claimed, I've got the wrong passport for this paddock. Yeah, so basically turning himself into the victim, not taking any responsibility, really, initially, for his Mexican Grand Prix naughty boyness. He kind of suggested it in the end, but there was no sorry. But then, let's be fair, hardly any F1 drivers ever apologised. Has Michael Schumacher ever really apologised for 94 and 97? Well, not really, has he? But let's move on. So Herbert, who again was an FIA race steward in Brazil, has insisted that he is not biased. And in a barb aimed at Jos, he questioned his position to be critical of Red Bull's operations. He's now suggesting, is he suggesting that Jos, by criticising Red Bull, the team where his son is at, is maybe being a bit of a hypocrite? He's talking about Jos having been outspoken against his son's team on a number of occasions this year. To be fair, I kind of agreed, in parts because of all the unrest going at Red Bull. But was it his place? I don't know. But Johnny has said, I'm Johnny Herbert, the steward and the professional during a race weekend. Johnny Herbert, a pundit at other times, who expresses what he thinks. And that's Herbert telling safebettingsites.co.uk. He said, when I am a steward, I do not express any opinions. He said, everyone has an opinion. Martin Brundle has an opinion. Why can't I when I'm not at the racetrack? He said, the racetrack has been my world for 50 years. If I don't agree with what I see on track, I will say so. It's not just Max. I'll criticise anyone I feel if it is warranted. Completely agree. And he felt like it was warranted in Mexico because of Max's driving. And he said, I understand it was from Jos's point of view because it was his son. Is there any bias? No, of course not. I wasn't the only one to think Max was over the top in Mexico. And he cites Lando Norris and Zach Brown thought so too. Ergo, you can make an argument, well, they would do because they were kind of like the victims of what Max Verstappen did. Yes, they were. But the whole world saw what Max Verstappen did in Mexico. And unless you are a die-hard Max Verstappen fan, I think it's hard to really look in the mirror and be like, he did no wrong. Because let's be honest, he kind of did. When I do speak to people on a Monday or Tuesday, Herbert said, that is outside my stewarding responsibilities. He said, Jos has always been very outspoken about what is happening at Red Bull. He said, is that his position to be? It is all very similar. If you have an opinion and you want to make it, then you can. Yeah, absolutely. But meanwhile, Herbert says that Norris, who trails Verstappen by 62 points, we've got 86 points left, will learn from this title fight. So yeah, fair enough. The other thing is, these people, Jos Verstappen and Johnny Herbert, do they really get on? If you remember, go back as far as 1994, and it was Johnny Herbert that took Jos Verstappen's place at Benetton. So maybe there's some bias there. Maybe there's some bias with Derek Warwick being owning a Honda garage. Maybe there's some bias from the McLaren founder's son. I mean, you can throw shade everywhere if you really want to. You can. And also, you can talk about it. You can. Not that people will agree with you. That's absolutely fine too. But I do think Johnny Herbert's been really, really unfair. He's been kind of like lambasted, as we said the other day, on social media. I don't think there's anything wrong with Johnny. I think he is a lovely guy. I think he does have integrity. He's a hardcore racer. I mean, he came to Formula One almost like half a man after what happened to his leg. And it was kind of like a what-if scenario with Johnny Herbert, because he was really, really talented coming up the ranks. And racing all the time with a pain in his leg and not really feeling 100% and still winning a handful of races is simply amazing. So Johnny, we salute you there, and fair play. But Max and Jos are obviously, and you are obviously entitled to your opinions. Absolutely, you are. So let's go then from Johnny Herbert to Jos Verstappen and the British press. Yes, Jos Verstappen versus the British. Yeah, Jos has taken aim at the British press, kind of like his son did. Let's also talk about that. This is like the Verstappen podcast, isn't it? Seemingly, but yeah, let's have a chat about it. So Verstappen of the Jos variety, he's come out whining British press will keep their mouth shut after the Max Verstappen win. It was an amazing win. Max Verstappen had an amazing race. Now, the 2024 title fight, as pretty much as it says here, we've been talking about it quite a lot this year. A different battle has been raging though behind the scenes. So Max Verstappen had much to say about the British press at the most recent press conference, as we commented on a video before. And in the press conference, he was basically asking, where's all the British drivers gone? But anyway, Max Verstappen, he's led from the beginning of the 2024 championship. And it was like, oh gosh, not this again, like 22 and 23. However, then from the flames comes a Lando Norris with the help of a safety car to win his first race in Miami. Then hope springs eternal, because we had a battle with Norris and Verstappen, and it grew fiercer and fiercer with what kind of initially came ahead at the Austrian Grand Prix, then the American Grand Prix, and then the Mexican Grand Prix. And, it resulted in Verstappen taking aim at the British press, which he perceives are biased against him and in favour of a British driver and a British team. Yes, you can make an argument they were in favour of a British driver and a British team. But the fact is that Max Verstappen was driving dangerously in Mexico. He got 2 points. So anyone could see that, and you did not need to be biased. But after his dominant Brazilian Grand Prix win by over 19 seconds, Verstappen looked at the journalists assembled at the post-race press conference. We've commented about it and said, I appreciate all of you being here, but I don't see any British press. I think, okay. I mean, we've already commented on that, so let's move on. So Jos Verstappen though was on site, as you can see here, at Interlagos after what was a very impressive victory for Max. And he told the official Dutch fan site Der Telegraph newspaper, which it would be because it's a Dutch newspaper, they are allowed to be biased. Spoke with the elder Verstappen, who felt that this was the ideal performance designed for the critics, and I think it did in a way, but we'll get into the but. He said, this is Max's perfect answer to a lot of whining, and certainly in the direction of the English. I don't know why, but there we go. Verstappen told the Telegraph. He said, commentators, journalists, and former drivers, they will keep their big mouths shut for a while now. Max has shown he is the very best. Absolutely in Brazil, no question. Yes, he did get a bit lucky from that red flag, like Lando suggested, but that wasn't the only thing. I still think he has enough pace to win. Anyway, Jos Verstappen carried on by saying those people who then shout that he should change his driving style is perfect. Yeah, it's not though, is it? It's not perfect. Now, is a father allowed to love their son? Yes. Is a father allowed to be biased towards their son? Absolutely. Of course. I've got a son and daughter. I dote on them. I love them. I will be biased towards them, even if it was to the press. Even saying his driving style is perfect, but then allow me to say, no, it's not perfect. Let's be honest. If it wasn't perfect, he wouldn't have any penalty points, for which he has, I think, over half a dozen now. Sadly, in Mexico, it was deemed that his driving was dangerous. Is that perfect? No. He refuses to give up in corners. That's something both Johnny Herbert and Damon Hall have suggested. If he did that, maybe we wouldn't have the Silverstone clash. Yes, Lewis was found to be predominantly to blame on that. But the point I'm making is, at some point, if he refuses to give in, someone's going to potentially get hurt. And herein lies the issue with him moving in the corner, moving under braking in the corner. He's not the only one to do it, but he did it in Austria to Lando Norris, which again was, many felt, dangerous. So his driving style, and don't forget, his car and driving style have got him to where he is today. But that was still with a 20-second penalty in Mexico because of the way he drove. So his driving style is not perfect. The day, it's going to be really interesting. The day will come when he will be up against someone, and Lewis Hamilton found it with Max Verstappen, just as good as him, possibly just as aggressive as him. And it's gonna be fireworks, and it's gonna be really exciting to see what happens. Someone that will give no quarter, just like Max. And at that point, like Lewis, he won't be the young rookie fighting for his first world championship. He's gonna be the target, and that's gonna be really that for me. It's gonna be really interesting. But a perfect driving style, sorry, Jos, I'm gonna have to absolutely disagree. But I will fight your right to say that, because it's lovely. You love your son, understandably. Anyway, if you like what you see, please give us a subscribe. That would be absolutely amazing. Thank you very much in advance. Hit that notification button so you do not miss a video, and we'll speak to you soon. Thank you very much.